weekly breakdown of every NASCAR Cup Series race. Here are your hosts, Kevin Batstone, NASCAR Sky, and Jeff Davis.
Welcome back, NASCAR Nation, to another great episode of Mash the Gas Podcast, your premier home for everything NASCAR Cup Series coverage. My name is Kevin Batstone. Joining me shortly, Jeff Davis, and of course, NASCAR Sky. We're here to break down all of the action from the Quaker State 400 at the EchoPark Speedway. We had rain delays, we had late night racing, we had it all. Sky, who mashed it the hardest?
I'm very excited to be able to give it to Ryan Blaney, but Ryan Blaney definitely mashed it the hardest. Not only was it past his bedtime, and he did win the race, he also won stage 1 and 2. I mean, a complete stellar, dominant performance. It's something that, we've seen out of Blaney time and time again. They're just, that 12 team is the best Ford out in the field right now. And I don't think this is the only time we're going to be talking about him in the next few weeks, guys.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing watching him get shuffled back a few different times, and he just hard charged it straight to the front. I mean, how many times does someone lead 171 laps on a drafting track, which is completely amazing. And like you mentioned, Sky, him being able to take stage 1, stage 2, and the win. That's the first time Blaney's ever done that. He's done it 4 times in his career. Has he actually won stage 1 and 2? But those other times were, he did it in Texas in 2017 and 2020, but he got a P7 and a P12 as far as the finish goes. He did it in Martinsville in 21, finished P11. So to see him sweep both stages, get the win, maximize those points, Blaney's a hard charger, man. I mean, the only one truly locked in into the playoffs right now is Denny Hamlin. I mean, unless he got DNF for every race coming up, there's no way that he's going to get knocked out of the chase. So yeah, congratulations to Ryan Blaney.
Fantastic run. I mean, another incredible stat throughout here. Most laps led by a NASCAR Cup Series driver on a super speedway / drafting style track since Richard Petty at the 1964 Daytona 500. I mean, that is an incredible stat alone. We know how these drafting style tracks work. We typically see 30, 40, 50 lead changes, and he was out there dominating. Anytime somebody would get a run, Blaney would find a way to get it back and just complete domination. And a great points day. He's heading into probably the best stretch of the season for Blaney with these racetracks coming up. North Wilkesboro, we've got Iowa, we've got Richmond, we've got New Hampshire. Those are all tracks that the 12 can easily go out and win. Very, very good chance the 12 goes on a run here to win this regular season championship, Sky.
It's crazy at the beginning of the year, just how the season has gone, how we were so convinced that no one would be able to catch Reddick, and then Denny dethroned him, and now here's Blaney into the mix. And like you mentioned, with these stretch of races coming up, he's got a fair shot at making a run at Denny Hamlin altogether. But overall, Atlanta, EchoPark, whatever, such a great race. I really enjoyed it. I do like, NASCAR racing it out. I know it finished very late, and it is unfortunate for a lot of people who have to work. But I do like that they're doing. They made that decision and didn't postpone it because they've done a little bit of everything this year. They've upped the time. They've done everything. We've seen the postpone. The fans were there all day through the rain. I'm just glad that they raced it out, and it was a spectacular finish. Atlanta is always. It just seems to always be good about giving us these crazy finishes.
And I'll tell you what, this is probably my favorite race I've seen in Atlanta. I mean, like you mentioned, I'm glad that they went ahead and finished it out. I'm sure quite a few people had to call in sick out there for a lack of sleep going to this Cup race, but there were a decent amount of fans that did stick it out the whole way. And, like you mentioned, Blaney does have a shot for going for that number 1 spot. It's doable. It's crazy how the last 6 wins for Ford in the Cup Series has all come from Ryan Blaney. Back to Nashville in June of 25. He's the only Ford that's got the last 6 races. So yeah, congratulations for his 19th career win. He's going to be around for a while, and I think he's going to get up there on that top 10 all-time win list if he keeps running like this. And it kind of reminds me back in the day, I know we were speaking about it a few weeks ago, when Carl Edwards and Tony Stewart, Carl Edwards had the championship pretty much locked up. But when it got down to the chase, Tony Stewart got on a heater, won 6 of the races, actually tied for the exact number of points but the trophy went to Tony Stewart. And I'm wondering if, if there's a possibility, I know it's slim, but if we see something kind of similar happen this year with Ryan Blaney, and whether it be the 11 of Hamlin or the 45, who knows, you guys? What do you think, Kev?
I think it's very possible with this chase format being back. And we know that Penske is a second half of the year type of organization. They get better and better, especially when we go back to tracks for the second time in the season. It was another good run for obviously Blaney, but Joey is finally starting to improve a little bit. Sky, your pick, Cindric, didn't quite put up the results that you were hoping for. But overall, if we look at this thing on a graph, the Fords and Chevys are getting a little bit better. Toyota came out of the gate, complete domination with Tyler Reddick 5 in a row. Denny Hamlin started rattling off wins. It just Toyota racing has been very difficult to compete with. Ford is starting to close that gap, I think, with the competition. So I think there's a really good chance that when we get to the chase, regardless of who wins the regular season, has that 25-point advantage. I don't think it's going to matter because there's such diverse tracks in the chase. No more road course. Of course, we will have to go through a Talladega, so there's still a wild card there, but no eliminations. You can just run them, have consistent points days. It's going to be a very, very different postseason compared to what we've seen in the last 15 years.
And I'm very excited for the change. I mean, I think it was just so tiring, the old playoff. I mean, we've talked about it a million trillion times. No point in bringing it up again. But there's so many things that can happen. And I know that Jeff was saying that it's a slim chance that, something like that could happen again. But I mean, hell, did anybody think Reddick was going to go out and win as many races in a row at the beginning of the season? So this season just seems to be one for the books, which is crazy because I feel like the last couple seasons have been pretty insane. They just keep topping and getting better. I was looking at the playoff standings. I know we're kind of jumping around a bit, but I am just so impressed with the 54. We talked about Toyota and just their dominance. That is probably one of the biggest surprises this season. I mean, he's maintaining, a top 5 spot in the standing. I mean, that's something that you would ask me at the beginning of the year. I never would have assumed that Ty Gibbs would be, doing as well as he is. So I'm interested to see the next few weeks how it does for him as well, because these are pretty decent tracks for him too.
Yeah, Sky, it is kind of interesting. I would not put Ty Gibbs number fourth in the standings right now. If you would have told me he'd been in the top 10 where we're at right now. I'm like, yeah, there's a possibility, but no, he's doing it. I mean, it's amazing what the 54 car has been able to pull off. And kind of like Kevin was mentioning about the Penske's and between the Fords and the Chevys kind of all starting to come up a little bit. It's not just starting Toyota as much anymore, because I was actually really impressed with the overall Penske organization. All 3 of their drivers being able to finish in the top 15. So I thought that was pretty cool. Chase Elliott surprised me there. He was kind of running mid-pack, same with William Byron, and then both of them got right up front as well. Byron didn't really win, getting that top 3 or anything, but he was getting in the top 10 when, during the race, he was really bitching about his car and the handling, and they were just not having a good day. So, overall, again, I think this is one of the best races that I have seen in Atlanta. And it's really cool to see all the teams kind of getting up in there. Carson Hocevar, getting a P3. He was in the top 10, top 5 almost all day long. And, other than when, he had that issue, he had to come back down on pit road because the tire blowing out on him, which I thought was going to set him back, because I think it put him in about 33rd place when he got back on track, 32nd place, right around there. And what does he do? He rips it all the way up to the front. It kind of reminds me of what Denny Hamlin does. You see Hamlin get a penalty on pit road or a tire go down or something in the same situation. We've seen him where he's gone to a backup car and had to start at the very back of the field, comes back and wins the race. So to see Carson Hocevar just kick ass as much as he did, I thought was super cool. And the other thing I found really funny, and I don't know if you guys caught it or not, but Carson Hocevar said, any fan that brings another driver's shirt to my hauler, I will give him a brand new free shirt of my 77. And he said he was going to do like 77 of them for his number. And he's like, you'd be amazing how many fans came and did it. And it really made me laugh my ass off, you guys.
Well, just that's Carson, right? He's becoming a fan favorite. I think he's going to make a run. It's going to be tough to beat Chase Elliott, but he's just a character. I don't know if you guys heard him on the radio when he was leading there, getting ready to go into overtime, singing, They had the tunes
Yeah.
playing. I mean, he was just completely having a good time with it. And he was one of the few guys, Jeff, that I saw was able to go to the back of the field and drive back through. I expected to see more out of Brad Keselowski and Ricky Stenhouse Jr. You know, these style of racing, typically those guys find a way to the front, and it just did not happen. They just could not get going. I don't know if it was a setup issue. We know the 16, kind of a heartbreak for AJ Allmendinger. He came out of the radio. He's like, I'm done. I don't want to be out here. And then he spun out again after that. So a couple rough goes after the red flag. But I will say, you know, a lot of people are like, why didn't NASCAR move this race up a little bit? We were about 13 to 15-ish laps from halfway, which would have made this race official. So if we did move it up an hour, we would not have gotten a full race in. So it's a coulda, woulda, shoulda scenario. I like the fact that we ran it. I know it was late, but had we have moved it up, I still don't think we would have got the full product of racing. Blaney probably still would have won this race, but we would have had some different people in different places.
Yeah, definitely for sure. I think it's a good mix. Like I said earlier, I like that NASCAR's, you know, playing each race differently, and I like that they decided to race it or play it out. And I think that it made for some really good content. I mean, when they were interviewing Bubba Wallace there, and Blaney came up joking, and Bubba asked how his nap went or whatever. I mean, that was so funny, and then for him to bring it back into his post race, I mean, it really lets you kind of see. That's why I always like rain delays too, because that's when you get to really see a lot of these drivers, and their personalities. And Carson Hocevar, I mean, he did a really good job. Something I noticed at the end there, it didn't seem like anybody wanted to help him. Nobody wanted to push him there. I know Seabell was kind of didn't have anywhere to go. I know some people were complaining that he ended up pushing Blaney, but if you look back, I mean, there was no way to get to a Toyota at that point, kind of where he was positioned. And then he chose to push to 12. And I think that the more and more that Carson, that's probably a product of the type of racing that Carson does. You know, it's a give and take. You're gonna take from people all the time. You know, they're not gonna want to give anything.
Yeah, you got to line up through manufacturers a lot of times, and the reason I was so impressed with Carson getting, you know, starting all the way back there and charging to the front is because, you know, when we see pack racing like this, it's almost impossible to get through 2-3 wide when that's what's being ran the entire track, especially when you're on a mile and a half versus, you know, 2.5 miles, 2.6 between, you know, Dega and Daytona. You know, it's hard enough for these guys to get all the way up to the front on a normal mile and a half. So when you're having to fight that much traffic, that's what really impressed me about Carson Hocevar and getting where he was. But yeah, Bubba, as far as that penalty, man, I want to hear your guys' opinions on this, because I've got a couple different feelings about it. I mean, yeah, he did get bumped by the 54 below, you know, and it was an unfortunate situation. It did advance the situation, but I think Bubba Wallace, you know, what he should have probably done is drop back down and let 1 or 2, 3 cars go by him, and they probably would not have penalized him to the very back and made him, you know, give him dead last in points. So, you know, I think Bubba made a mistake there on his part. I mean, again, yeah, it wasn't his fault that the 54 got into the back of him. But the other thing that, you know, if you guys heard his interview at the end of the race when he's kind of talking about the incident with the 54, you know, Daniel Trotter was sitting there chatting with him, and the very last thing Bubba said, he's like, you know, well, that's Toyota teammates. We don't race very well together. I mean, not a very good attitude to have, you guys. I mean, he seems to always have someone else to blame for anything that goes wrong with him.
Well, I think that's Bubba. When he has a bad day, or, you know, a situation goes wrong, and he had just found that news out minutes before they stuck a microphone in his face. That's just typical Bubba. You know, we've seen him do that for the years. He gets very emotional, oftentimes beats himself up. You know, is not the best team player at the end of the day. But I think when, you know, he did have a point that I think there's a case to be made to look at the SMT data between the 54 and the 23. It was hard to say. I think Steve Letarte even caught it in the booth and was like, you know, it was like right on the line of, was that a commitment line violation, or not a commitment line, but below the yellow line violation? If you drive yourself down there to advance, right? We see with this new Atlanta, it's really starting to take shape with how we get runs. I mean, the way these guys can dive into turn 3 and advance positions and get runs is just different than Talladega and Daytona. And so it looked, you know, from the viewer's point of view, we only had a couple angles of it. Yeah, the 54 nudged him, 23 went below, but did he actually advance his position, right? Because it still looked like he netted out third, ultimately 29th, last car on the lead lap after the penalty. But that's a tough one. I want to see all the data before And I don't know if that's something that they can appeal if NASCAR is going to take a look and say, maybe we got that wrong. This could open up Pandora's box as far as these line violations.
I think that Bubba could make a case. If obviously I haven't seen the data or anything, but if the data is showing it, I think when you watch him come back up, he doesn't automatically advance his position. You can see the 77 is still ahead of him. It is only momentarily. Then I do think he ends up kind of getting the lead for a second, like right after. So I don't know what they're going to consider. I do think that you could probably make a case, and I think it's worth a shot. I think that there's nothing to lose by not making a case if you can make a case. So I hope to see that they do that, and not just give into it. But it is unfortunate, but it's just one of those things where you got to be mindful. You got to be mindful where the lines are, where the racing line. Same thing like on a road course. Those things happen, but you got to be mindful. You got to be careful. And I don't know. It is unfortunate for Bubba because I do think that the 23 was probably one of the better cars all day.
He did. He did a really good job, and that's like you said. That was the unfortunate thing about it is he had a really good chance of winning that race. He was in the top five almost the entire race. So I don't know if NASCAR is going to go back. They'll probably review it, but are they going to change the outcome of it? I really doubt it. I really don't, just because I think, like I was mentioning, there were other alternatives that he could have done if he was thinking about it. But when you're making those split second decisions, it's in an instance. So there's certain things you're not going to remember, and certain things that you might not have even thought of even trying in the first place. So yeah, unfortunate for Bubba, but again, a lot of other drivers had a really good day. I think the rain delay was honestly was long, which is 3.5 hours or something like that. But when it washed off the track and cooled down the temperatures, it created another whole style of racing. It's like, okay, all these crew chiefs during that rain delay were sitting there going, okay, now we got to remember we're racing in a different kind of track right now. It's not going to be all rubbered up. It's not going to be all warm. And so then I think that's why we saw so many cars kind of going back and forth from the front to the back, and the cars that were in the middle of the pack make it to the front. But eventually we wound up getting pretty much the same guys that were in the top 5 to top 10 at the beginning of the race versus the end of the race.
Yeah, and we really didn't see. We saw some cautions towards the end. We knew we would. The guys started spinning. Cautions breed cautions. That's typical. But if you guys caught the O'Reilly race on Saturday, that was a complete disaster. Most cautions in series history, they just could not stop wrecking. And we know the Cup Series is a little bit more tightened up than that. But it could have gone that same way, especially going back out onto a green racetrack. But these guys raced relatively clean. There was times that Junior would come on and say, man, these guys they're fixing to make a mistake and wreck the whole field. And we saw, Kyle Larson get into some trouble. We saw the 16. I think the 16 was the first cause of caution of the race where we actually had a spin on the racetrack. So, all in all, there are a lot of on-track action for sure. We were talking penalties when we were with you last week on Mash the Gas. We were unsure what was going to happen with the 97 and 33 situation with SVG and Austin Hill. NASCAR did not penalize them, but they were both called to the hauler. I caught a little bit of what SVG had to say coming out of that, and he basically said that Austin Hill had the last word, that he's not done. He's still going to race aggressively, this, that, and the other. The radio audio didn't seem to matter. SVG still kind of trying to figure out how that works in NASCAR, right? Because in Australian V8 supercars, you do something like that, you get penalized on the spot. There is no policing yourself. So what was your guys' thoughts? Do you think that SVG or those guys deserve penalties? We kind of speculated last week, didn't come down. SVG did come home P6, so great night for him. Needed that to stay in the points. But SVG's worried that the 33 is going to try to sabotage his chance at the chase.
If the data is showing that it was intentional, then they need penalized. Regardless if they said anything on the radio or not, I think you need to hold everyone to the same standard, and just it's getting too murky. It's getting too confusing. I think that if it was intentional, then it needs to be penalized.
And, sometimes it's even tough to tell with the SMT data, so it's a difficult situation. I think the biggest thing is keep your mouth shut on the radio. If you're going to say something, change it to the different channel. They can switch channels, but don't go broadcast and stuff like that, because that's how you do get penalized. We've seen that happen over and over again, where nothing probably would have become of a situation, but the driver opens his mouth and says a little something, something, and sure enough, NASCAR and everyone else picks up on it, and that's where they have a hard time. But old Gizzy, man, yeah, he had a great day getting that P6 finish. There's a little discussion I know with him and Tyler Reddick after the race because of that last restart. Tyler Reddick was thinking he would get a little bit more of a push and was trying to, actually just help out SVG because Shane even said, he's like, Tyler was just kind of talking to me about my restarts and how I need to work on them a little bit more. And he's right. There wasn't any animosity or anything between them. He was just like, talking to him about getting that push. Because that definitely would have helped them both out if he could do that. But as we know, SVG is still working on his oval package, and obviously it's showing with the wins and the points he's got right now. Like we were mentioning, hey, if he keeps finishing like this, he's gonna make the cut. So I'm super excited to see what he can do, Kevin. It's like Shane is second year in the Cup, and he's kicking ass.
Well, he's definitely, he's coming into his own. We've talked about kind of the struggles with Trackhouse, and that does apply to, some of the speed that they show up at with, our traditional ovals. I mean, he's currently sitting 322 points behind first, but most importantly for him, he's got a little bit of cushion with Eric Jones closing in, who, look, Legacy Motor Club, they're starting to find speed too. So it is going to be a tough battle for SVG to get through some of these challenging racetracks coming up, Indy and Iowa and New Hampshire and, a lot of these racetracks that he doesn't have a ton of experience at. Of course, you got Daytona to finish it out. So it's going to be a battle. SVG is going to need to be tightened up. They got to qualify good. Track position is going to be crucial. But he's definitely, I would say, the most improved driver in the shortest amount of time, just looking at the points here. And while I have that up, I mean, we got Denny Hamlin still as the points leader. Tyler Reddick got it down to 24 points, but Ryan Blaney got it down to 65, right? We mentioned Ty Gibbs sitting there in fourth, Chase Elliott, Kyle Larson. Tough night for Kyle. Again, 2 weeks in a row, just chaos there. But these guys are definitely going to need to stay dialed in. I would say, Sky, probably the top 5 or 6 as I look at this are basically locked into the chase unless complete disaster strikes.
No, I definitely agree with you. And I always think Chris Buescher is so interesting to me because I feel like we have not mentioned him very much this season, but he's right there, right behind Kyle Larson. And it was a rough Super Speedway, was that even what Super Speedway racing and Kyle Larson it doesn't mix very well together. I mean, I don't know what it is for him, but he can never catch a break. I'm glad. I was really hoping when he was going through the infield that, his car would stay together. Cause that's always the worst at least when you're spinning it out, if you're not touching anything, you can get back to it, but he can't catch a break at those tracks. I swear if you threw it at him. So
he's winless.
Very similar to, I know.
Won.
We can tell it is rough, and I'm sure he feels every minute of that as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think right now he has led just under 700 laps so far this season. More laps than any other driver that does not have a win. The closest one to him is like 380, and I think that was 45. So to see the number 5, he's been snake bit. I mean, spun out last week, just hitting a couple bumps. And this week, pretty much the same damn thing. Had fresh tires on, spun out. I don't know what the deal is. Why Larson is having those issues. If he's just not concentrating or just little minor mistakes. Maybe he didn't get a good nap in the middle of the rain delay. I don't know. But it's very unfortunate to see someone that is that talented have this much of a problem. Even though he's 6th in standings, I don't think he's going to have an issue, making the chase. But he's going to have to get it together. We've been saying that a lot about Hendrick Motorsports over the course of the year, other than Chase Elliott, and his 2 wins that he has. I think he's pretty good locked in there in P5. But yeah, right now I'm really keeping an eyeball on Ryan Blaney because I think he can definitely move up there and take out Tyler Reddick and Denny Hamlin if he keeps running like he does. It must be something to do with that big old mustache he grew this year, you guys.
It's definitely doing something for him for sure, and he's just on top of his game. He's in his prime and he's hitting his groove. Him and Jonathan Hassler seem to have found something that works, and they're in their groove. They're the best of the Ford competition at this point. And as we said, with the schedule coming up, it falls right into Ryan Blaney's lap. As we head to North Wilkesboro here for our first ever points race. This is going to be interesting because really the only data we can analyze from the Cup Series is the All-Star race that existed here, for the last 2 years. And we know how the All-Star race is, right? It's only a 200-lap race, flip-flop, different kinds of stages. It's tough to translate that to what it's going to do for a points race. But, when we look at it, obviously Joey Logano and Christopher Bell both have wins there. So that might be something to lean on there, Sky. Maybe this is where the 22 finally turns it around here at North Wilkesboro.
I don't know if I'm fully confident in that, but I mean, definitely he could probably get a really good finish. At least that's the goal. But I definitely, my eyes are on Ryan Blaney. I feel like Ryan Blaney is going to go out. Denny Hamlin probably be someone else is probably going to compete really well, but I don't know. Blaney, he's just been on fire, and I think that this win is going to light something under him. I'm sure he had these, races marked on his calendar coming up at the beginning of the year. So it should be a good race. Like I said, it's hard. Like you said, it's hard to kind of make any educated guesses on how or who you think is going to win because it was always so chaotic and it was only half the amount of laps as it is going to be this weekend. So I don't know. I have like 5 different drivers that I have circled because I still have no idea who I'm going to pick yet.
Yeah, lots of kind of unpack. We just don't know. Well, I mean, what we do know is it's 450 laps. We know it's a super short track. We know it's going to take a lot of grit. The short track drivers like Ryan Blaney, no brainer. Does this start to fall into a track where SVG can excel with managing brakes and rotating the car through the center? I just think there's a lot of drivers here that can excel. I'll let you guys pick because I usually go first, and I guarantee one of you are going to take my picks.
That's a tough one. I mean, it's an interesting track. So there's a number of drivers, like Sky said. I've got a handful of guys I've been looking at, but like you mentioned, this is only a 0.625 of a mile. All 4 turns as far as banking, 14%, straightaways at 3%. I've got 2 drivers I was thinking of taking. One is Christopher Bell because I think he did a damn good job yesterday as well. He was right up there. I was actually kind of rooting for him as much as I was Blaney, just because of how good that racing was. And Christopher Bell, I'm tired of seeing him be the bridesmaid. Always coming in second place. It's like, man, when is he going to get that win? I want to see it really bad. So this is a tough one because he did win the All-Star race last year, and Kyle Larson's actually got the race lap record there, but he didn't finish there too well. I mean, I finished P21 in the All-Star race. So I'm going to go out there on a limb and I'm going to take the 20 of Christopher Bell.
All right, Christopher Bell is one of the drivers that I had circled because I do think that is a really strong pick, and I do think that he's probably also sick of running second. I'm sure he's ready to get a win. It's hard seeing your teammates, get wins and you're the only one. So I'm sure that he's ready. You know what? Last week I said, oh, I'm not going to take Blaney, even though I want to. I'm going to take Cindric. Well, I'm going to take Blaney this week. I feel like Blaney's going to be on a hot streak. We've mentioned it this entire episode. These tracks coming up, he is energized. He is ready. He's got that mustache. He's probably going to take a million naps now on race day. But yeah, I think Ryan Blaney, that's who's going to win in North Wilkesboro.
Well, so both of you guys took both of my picks. That was my 1 and 2 pick. I figured that was going to happen.
Hey, Kyle Larson.
I'm not going to take Kyle Larson. I'm going to take a wild pick here, Sky. I'm going with your boy. He led 139 laps here last year. Joey Logano, he needs something. He's going to feed off his teammates' energy. It's going to be a Penske battle, I feel like. I feel like Joey Logano is going to go out there and get his first win of the year.
I'm glad that you brought up SVG because that's someone I was looking at also. Obviously, maybe not to win necessarily, but I do want to see how he does. I feel like he does have really strong potential to finish well, and you got to get with it ending very soon. You got to get every point that you can get.
For sure. And I do think short tracks are going to play into SVG's driving style, just with the way we have to brake, manage tire. We see how he does it on road courses. He's got enough oval experience now, Jeff. I think this is SVG's time to shine and show why he belongs in the chase.
It is. It's going to be a fun race next week, but now it's time to shut it down, guys.
That's right. We're on to North Wilkesboro. Exciting times. I know Dale Jr. is pumped. I mean, he worked so hard, tirelessly to get this track back to the Cup Series. O'Reilly Series is off this week. We'll see them in Indy. Trucks are out there on Saturday, and this will be the first Cup Series points race in North Wilkesboro since the 1990s. It's definitely going to feel pretty historic. It's another Sunday night race. I'm not really loving that, guys, for folks who have to work on Mondays. I miss the Saturday night races, but look, I love short track racing under the lights. We used to call it short track Saturday night. I guess it's now short track Sunday night. That's just the way that the Cup Series has transitioned. But I think it's going to be fantastic. Beating and banging. We're going to have a full field out there. The All-Star race, we only had a half a field to, about 3/4 of a field. So a lot of storylines that are going to come out of North Wilkesboro. We'll be back next Monday night to break down all of the action from our first point series race there in almost 30 years. Just incredible. Be sure to follow us across the board, social media at Mash the Gas, NASCAR Sky over there at NASCAR Sky. And until then, y'all,
Mash the gas.